Welcome, everybody. My name is Dustin Betts. I'm a community manager at the Founder Institute, and I'm here today with JD Mintz. He's the founder and CEO of NuLife, which is an FI San Diego portfolio company whose platform aims to revolutionize patient behavioral health treatment. JD Mintz, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me, Dustin, and Founders Institute. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so before we dive into your company, NuLife, the first question I always like to ask founders first is, could you please just tell us a little bit about yourself and your startup journey? What were the experiences of yours, professional or personal, that led you to founding this platform for mental and behavioral health care?
Yeah, absolutely. Very personal story. I am a third generation entrepreneur. Previous to this company, I found my own recovery on March 17th of 2012. So I got sober approximately 10 years ago last week. And in 2013, started a brick and mortar, addiction treatment and mental health treatment facility in the LA area, and did that all the way through 2019. And during that journey, really realized what worked and what didn't. And that's what led me to, what I'm doing today with NuLife Virtual.
That's awesome, and congratulations, yeah, on your 10-year sobriety anniversary. I know these things are
Thank you.
always a journey, so that's a big one.
For sure. Yeah.
I know because you're an FI portfolio company, I'm already somewhat familiar with NuLife,
Sure.
that you're delivering holistic care to maximize patient engagement, retention. But please give us your version of the short pitch. So for those most watching would be totally unfamiliar, what is NuLife?
Yeah, so absolutely. Let's just start with the fact that 100,000 people died over the past 12 months from drug overdoses, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. And that's one human life every 5 minutes. And we know that opioids are addictive. And so NuLife Virtual was a company, is a community healthcare app and platform to help people struggling with addiction get and stay better. We use the same addictive nature of social networking to engage people in a positive manner, connecting them with the best of the best treatment providers, providing an on-demand community treatment ecosystem. So what this does is keeps people connected. It bridges the gaps in current treatment model, increases access to care and social support, because the reality is that 10% of the people that need help get help. And of the ones that get help in the current model, only 50% complete treatment. And some, it's a little bit worse than that.
Yeah. So we're going to talk more about the kind of full scope of the problem. I guess, if there was one sort of silver lining of the past 2 years, the pandemic, it does seem like we're in a new age of real possibility for telemedicine. And I'm assuming that, pre-COVID, the tech options available to mental and behavioral healthcare practitioners and recovery professionals, that it was more limited. But like NuLife, you're using tech, as you sort of alluded to enable that connected and holistic experience for patients. So I guess this is kind of similar to how you framed it, but talk to us just a little bit more about that full scope of challenges you're addressing, or maybe just hit those stats again, because it really is very impactful how big of an issue it is. And maybe why is patient connectivity, so important for behavioral care in particular?
Yeah, I mean, because in general, the old model or the current model of treatment tended to treat addiction and put everybody in a box and treat it as an acute care situation. And it's more of a chronic disease, much like diabetes. And so, part of the problems with addiction treatment is, number one, people don't know where to turn, and there's the limited access. So 10% of the people that actually need care are actually getting the care that they need for a variety of reasons, whether it's affordability, access, transportation. And so what the digital, in 2017 and 18, when I owned the brick and mortar, we started to experiment with doing virtual care environments to put together a full outpatient treatment program delivered online. So we were delivering group therapy, individual therapy, and case management virtually. We realized, once people kind of were like, "Hey, what's this?" They liked it because they could get their treatment done and then get back into life, whether it was looking for work or going back to, to school. And COVID has exacerbated the situation substantially. The numbers are through the roof. I mentioned the overdose deaths in the past 12 months. That was up 30% in 1 year, the greatest jump we've ever had. But more alarming is, it affects 1 in 3 households in America. Drug abuse and use is up, over 60% in our adolescent populations, and we've yet to see really the tsunami, I think, that we have coming out. That's going to be the after effect of COVID for years to come, and so providing on-demand care and kind of whether it's professional care or peer support. We wanted to start an app and a platform where people could kind of drive their own care and develop relationships with providers that best match what they need. And whether it was going in person or, attending online, treatment, or just engaging in, peer support or, support groups like AA or NA. We wanted to give them a platform to build those relationships and connections all in one place.
Yeah, yeah. So just in the United States, as you said, 1 in 3 households, 90% of the people who would fall into, I guess, the addressable market, if that's one way to kind of frame it, who need this kind of support are not currently getting it. So yeah, so we've really, talked about the need, I guess, a lot. Tell us more about NuLife, your platform, your solutions. How is it working, or will it work for patients, or to flip it on its head, then on the practitioner or provider side? What's it like using the NuLife platform?
Yeah. So I got sober going to AA, and for those of you that aren't familiar with AA or NA or any of the 12-step programs, there's a lot of that. It's not for everybody, but there's what has worked, and what continues to work with that is really the fellowship in the community, right? Addiction and is what I call a disease of isolation, and we need to find connection and to feel connected to others that have gone through something similar. So what we wanted to do with our platform was very unique in the fact that I'll say something. The fact is, we know heroin's addictive, we know opioids are addictive, and we've heard a lot of studies about how addictive social media is and social networking. And so we wanted to use the addictive nature of social media and social networking, but in a positive way, to allow people to make very positive relationships with people that have or are going through or are in similar situations. And so they can be positive influences to those that are looking or seeking, answers to why they drink or why they use, or why do their children, and what steps can they take to help them. And so the app is really built in a kind of a social networking engagement aspect of it, so that people can engage in their journey how they'd like. And from an enterprise or provider's perspective, one of the most difficult things that we had as a brick and mortar facility was, number one, finding access to great providers and clinicians to provide care. And number two, just the physical limitations of where we were located made it difficult to serve everybody that needed help. And then just the pure scheduling of everything that we have to do in developing a treatment plan or a treatment course. There's group therapy, 3 to 4 hours of group therapy in an outpatient setting, multiple times a week, individual therapy, with their therapist. Maybe case management to go through, social issues or legal issues that people might be having. And so from a provider's perspective, we allow them to digitize all of their services. So think maybe, Shopify for an e-commerce distributor. They can digitize all of their services and schedule those with their existing clients, but then also warm up new potential clients or prospective patients that might need their help. In a softer, more educational way. So what it does is in the traditional model, treatment is kind of short term, right? You have this 30-day program, and maybe they're going to continue an outpatient program for another 60 days. When in reality, they need to be engaged and connected with their care team or peer coaches or peer supporters for much longer than that, a year, 2 years. And that's simply what wasn't happening. And that's one of our main benefits that we provide with NuLife.
Yeah, yeah. I really like how you framed on the provider side, like how the platform solution sort of, yeah, can make the lives easier, I'm sure, for all the practitioners. And I also really liked, yeah, how you said it's something I've heard before, but yeah, addiction being a disease of isolation and how that lends itself to a solution that social, as you said, to like maintain that ongoing relationship far after you would have had like a traditional outpatient service. So yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. I want to ask you next about sort of social impact. Talk to us. It's a buzzword, but talk to us how you think, as a health tech founder, about this notion of building and measuring wellness as an outcome. You talked about your background in brick and mortar world, so you can like attest to lots of positive patient outcomes in one-to-one settings. But now, like building wellness at scale, if you will, to use another Silicon Valley word, through
Yeah.
NuLife's tech, like how do you conceptualize those positive impact outcomes that you're making? Is that something you're measuring? And if so, how?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great it's a great question. I mean, I think in telling a story about that is recovery is different for everyone, and I want to say that what I state here a lot are my opinions, and people have different opinions about what recovery and sobriety and all of these things might be, and it's one of the favorite dinner table conversations that come up when I'm at dinner with friends or associates, and you get the question when they know you're in this business. It's like, hey, I drink this much. Am I an alcoholic? Or I take these pills, and am I an addict? And it's really not for me to answer, but from a wellness and recovery perspective, it's all about, is my life getting better? Am I engaged in my life? Am I engaged in my community? Am I engaged in helping other people find a positive path in what they're on? And from a scalability perspective, one of the things that I hadn't mentioned is that we have a significant shortage in treatment providers, and that gap of the amount of people needing help and the amount of people there to provide help is going to continue to widen over the next few years. And so the only way to bridge that gap is through the use of technology. So one of the different ways that we look at measuring wellness and recovery is, through tools like the Recovery Capital Index, which helps measure long term. You could take it, I could take it, with 10 years of sobriety and recovery, and it kind of tells me, how am I doing today in relation to how I was doing, 30 days ago or 60 days ago, with regards to my social capital, my financial capital, my cultural, capital. And by taking this, I realized, how am I doing right now, and what's kind of missing in my life, and what can we recommend for them at that point? Do they need to engage with some more people in their community? If they're having financial struggles, can there be resources that we can point out for them to utilize to help their financial situation? So measuring wellness and recovery at scale is just using technology to, in a non invasive way, ask people questions, and by using the social engagement and social networking part of our app, we can improve the amount of responses that we get, and have better longer term data to kind of predict how people are doing longer term, and which providers, as importantly, which providers are getting the best outcomes over time.
Yeah, yeah, because long term is really kind of everybody wants to have that anniversary, like you, 10 years sober. Like that's the ultimate goal for everybody. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So like the key features, I guess, first from the patient perspective of using the platform. I know there's a lot of features that are built into the NuLife app, ability to like monitor patients, obviously, virtually, have virtual sessions, personalized content that's, personalized to that particular patient. And then, yeah, for like outcomes and assessments, which is sort of what you alluded to, the ability to do that virtually is much easier. Are there any key features that we haven't talked about yet that you want to highlight, or conversely, like on the provider enterprise side of the platform? Anything that you want to tell us about NuLife?
Yeah, I mean, I think, long term, it's really going to be important for us to understand and learn about our the clients and both providers and families that are using the app and the platform to make really intelligent recommendations to people to interact with. So on our roadmap are using, both, assessment type of data that we gather, behavioral analytical, type of data, to determine someone's path and to make, positive recommendations. And so really, also the integration of wearables, right? Devices that we wear that are measuring, you've got things like Apple Watch, Whoop, you've got, other wearable devices that measure, our fitness levels, our, blood pressure, how are we sleeping, things like that, where we can start to determine, hey, is somebody starting to be at risk for perhaps a slip or a reuse, or do they need an early intervention? And could that early intervention just be, hey, we want to send you pictures of, your family, or different positive things that get you back feeling, inspired? Or is it something more, hey, we want to prompt an interaction, with your care team or with your peer recovery circle that helps you stay on the right path, just by detecting, that it seems like, you have anxiety that's cropping up. So we want to intervene earlier so that, that people don't fall further and require more assistance than they would if there wasn't that early intervention. So that's probably some of the most important things, is to go upstream, and to try and keep people, on the right path, or whatever the right path is for them. And one of the other big things that I think gets overlooked, and I haven't spent enough time talking about it, is the interaction integration of working with someone's family or support system, which is so important to recovery. If I go to treatment and then I leave and I go right back into the same situation that I was before, my chances of success are extremely slim. And so how do we engage family and support systems to help, build trust for somebody long term? So that's one of the big aspects that we want to focus on, is incorporating the entire family system, into the recovery process.
Yeah, I love that. I love that insight because, yeah, I kept asking on the patient side versus the provider side, but definitely that main third node, 100%. Yeah, that's so critical to recovery and behavioral health is the family, as you, yeah, really explained. So, yeah, that seems really smart. And any way you can do that with big data or some kind of wearable device to have that early intervention happen, whether it comes, directly through the app or like through their personal network, the family or their connections. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense and seems like a really impactful solution that tech enables. So yeah, very exciting stuff. This question is always I like to ask our founders to go out on a limb and make a prediction. So what is your prediction for how technology will ultimately help us to achieve greater wellness in the next 5 to 10 years? And you can take that as like specific or as broad of a definition of wellness as you like. Any insight there? You already mentioned big data kind of and wearable devices, so maybe that's the answer.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that that technology is going to be, the blending of technology with real people and real support, whether it's professional support or just our peer network and support, because is so critical. And technology is going to bridge those two, I think, going forward and into the, and into the future. We see and hear a lot of negative effects of technology and social media and what people position their lives like and how that affects people mentally. And I think we're going to go through an evolution to where and we're starting to see influencers and other people starting to post areas of vulnerability and making it okay to say, hey, I'm not okay, and to reach out. And I really think that that's where technologies is going to help make those connections for people where it's very hard to pick up the phone, or it's very hard to make connections, on our own. And I think it's going to give us early indications when we need to, or reach out to for help when we can't do it, ourselves. So I think that we're going to go through and we're going to see that over the next few years that our technology and our platforms are going to, I mean, we're seeing in other fields, really be taking stock of what our body is telling us, and helping us, maybe change some of our behaviors, change some of our patterns, and stay on the right path. And the disease of addiction and alcoholism, sometimes we need to connect with a stranger because we feel ashamed or hesitant to talk to people that we know about it.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a really strong prediction, and I hadn't thought about. So I don't think you used the word stigma, but how, yeah, in social media and how people are just sharing on general social media platforms. Yeah, the stigma around different kinds of mental health challenges that people are facing, it does seem to be disappearing. So I really like that kind of techno optimist answer. If I'm techno optimist, that community can be there for people, that they can be vulnerable, and that provides then an outlet for somebody to
The,
intervene.
the
So
funny
yeah.
thing, the funny thing is about stigma, and you mentioned it, and I just in 10 seconds is once you get past that, and when I first admitted, hey, I'm an alcoholic, you always think you're the first one to know. In reality, you're the last one to know. And, it's amazing the outpouring of people. Once we get to that point, we say, hey, I need help. The level of support and people that are out there to help. And it's just like any other community, whether I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm on this lonely journey, there's a lot of those shared experiences. Once you ask for help and need help, that help shows up.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Very insightful. What advice would you offer for a very, very early stage entrepreneur? So I know, it's sometimes hard for a founder like in your own headspace to rewind to where you were earlier, but very early stage or just aspiring entrepreneur. Any kind of sage wisdom on getting started that you would offer in general?
Yeah, I mean, besides the real cookie cutter, hey, find something you're passionate about, you're willing to work hard with, and I mean, it's definitely hard, it's definitely lonely, but find things that that absolutely you're compassionate about, passionate about. But number one is find a client, right? Find a client that is willing to work with you to help solve the problem, and then go on to adding that second client. So really, my first advice is always decide what you want to do and what problem you're looking to solve, and then find a client that's willing to work with you and go from there.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. Final question I have for you is, where is NuLife headed next? Are there any other news or updates you want to share with the FI community, or any asks for the audience who might be watching?
Yeah, I mean, just give us a look. I think where we are at, we're at the point where we're releasing our Go Forward platform right now. We have clients in South Africa, UK, the US. We're in our own capital raise situation, and so we're looking to, secure that so that we can start to, grow our penetration into the space and get more people aware of what we're doing, and just making more of a positive social impact. And I look at this as so critical. I have two daughters, 18 and 14, and I see what goes on in families all over. There is no face of addiction or alcoholism. So we really want to get past that stigma and provide a platform where people can connect around it and live happy, healthy, well lives.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I put the website there in the animation. So newlifevirtual.com. Go over and check out the New Life platform for everybody who's watching. And yeah, this has been interesting learning about tech and connectivity, how that's transforming behavioral patient care. And yeah, we're all really looking forward to keeping up with New Life at the Founder Institute and where you're headed next. So JD Mintz, thanks so much again for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you, Dustin, and everyone out there. Appreciate your time.